Hello to my strategic management class, BL44. This might be a little rough. I've never used this technology specifically. I've used other technology to make videos, but I wanted to see if this might work and might help with debriefing round 5 using the courier, and also kind of remind you what's due and coming up this week. If it's successful, this video and kind of short presentation will replace the emails that I normally send out on Friday. So I'm going to take a look at it, and if it looks good, we'll roll with that, and hopefully that'll help understand what's going on in the simulation, and also remind you about the assignments that are going forward. So first thing I want to acknowledge is we are in a very obviously unusual situation, and I want to acknowledge that there's additional stressors that are out there for all of us. So if there's something that you need to talk about or whatever, you can certainly email me through Canvas. Let me know your phone number and a time to call, and I certainly will call you as well. And also for you groups, if you need me to kind of talk to you about specific situations. Previously, I've answered emails, but if it's more effective using this web conference capability that we now have at SNU, then let me know. We can set something up and see if it works. So without further ado, I wanted to get into round 5 of the courier, and you can see, hopefully you can see that I've got it pulled up here, and for the most part, you are all doing very well. I just wanted to highlight Andrew's contribution margin and Chester's contribution margin. The goal is 33% or above, and you both are above that. So you're getting very nice margins. The only issue is Chester market share could be a little bit higher. It's at 12.49%, and that's a little bit lower than especially the computer teams. Now, Baldwin, congratulations for digging out of the emergency loan, but we're still a little bit challenged by profitability. As you can see, you have a loss of $7.6 million and a cumulative loss of $43 million. And that's why our stock is underperforming. You're still at $1 per share. And I'll give you some tips that you can use in round 6, and then moving forward to round 7 and 8 and finalizing the simulation. So let me skip through to one of my favorite pages, the cash flow summary. Kind of shows where your cash is coming in and where it's going out. And obviously Baldwin starts with a negative number. So right in on the outset, your cash is going to be negative unless you do something in terms of selling off inventory, which I see you've done a little bit here, positive 3.8 million. So that's good. You listened to me there. And financing. I don't see a whole lot of financing done down here. And I'm going to emphasize this to all the teams, except Andrews. It looks like Andrews is listening to me. When you invest in long-term initiatives like plant improvements, you need to finance those with long-term debt. I see a lot of you trying to do it with stock or current debt. For instance, Baldwin down here, current borrowing is not the place to go. Where you need to go is your long-term debt if you have that facility available. So you want to match your assets, your long-term assets with long-term debt. That's key in financing. So we all ended up with some cash. Chester, a little bit too much cash, so I would encourage you to spend a little bit more money on plant improvements, possibly automation. And it looks like TQM, I think all the teams needed improvement as far as spending a little bit more on TQM. Those initiatives are going to help you in the long run as far as profitability. Now let's page 4. Another favorite page of mine. I spent, when I was playing a simulation, and I've played it several times, I spent the most time on page 4 because it shows everything, not only how your products are performing, but how other teams are performing, including the computer team. So it lays it all out right up front. First thing I would want to take note of is a lot of the teams, I'm going to focus on unit inventory. A lot of teams had 0 unit inventory left over, which means lots of stockouts. So if you can make additional products, and that will solve the stockout issue. Now, the caveat is if you're at 198% plant utilization, then you're maxed out. You cannot make any more products than you made last round. So the key there is to buy capacity around 160%. So here's an example, acre, 177% capacity. You should be buying capacity this round. You got the money for it as long as you can finance it, and try to stay ahead of the curve so that you don't stock out on, in this case, acre. I see very good contribution margins for all the products. This is another favorite column of mine, is to focus on this. And that's mainly for Able and actually all of Andrews and all of Chester. Where I see some challenges is Baldwin, low margins. You see 25, 16, 22, 18, 21. So there's some issues there. And one of the issues that I see as well, as far as capacity, you are maxed out on pretty much not all but 3 of your products. You need to be buying capacity. So again, finance that long-term debt if you can, and buy capacity so you can not, it doesn't force you into stocking out. That's where a lot of your products were underperforming, because you just didn't make enough products. So each market I usually go, and the first thing, and this is what I tell my seated classes, live classes, first thing I do is, it might be counterintuitive, but I always go to that right-hand side column and I look at the customer survey scores. Customer survey scores are so critical in this game, because customer survey scores, if you recall how you do your estimated sales volume or sales projection, it's based on relative customer survey scores. And that's in 10.2 of your online guide. But the higher your score, the more market share you're going to obtain. The more market share you're going to obtain, as long as your products are producing decent contribution margin per product, you're going to your profitability is going to skyrocket. So the key to the game is to maximize these scores. How you maximize these scores goes right back up to here, as far as satisfying at least number 1 and number 2 buying criteria in each market. Each market's a little unique. In this market, it has to be age of 2.0, and they want a price of $17.50 to $27.50. Now, keep in mind, this is a 50-cent reduction for round 6, so they want a price of 17 to 27. They care about price. If they care about price, they need that on the lower end. So those are the kind of things you need to think about. What am I? If I'm doing well, let's look at cake, for example. Cake 59, that's an amazing score. That is really good. So you're satisfying pricing, you're satisfying MTBF, you're close to ideal position, you're close to 2.0, you're spending money on promo and sales. That's why your score is so high. As opposed to bid, let's look at bid. That's a score of 7 versus 59. What is going on here? So you need to look at what is happening. First thing I look at is positioning. Positioning is 9 and 11.4, and it really wants 8.5 and 11.5. So positioning is not really a big issue. What I feel with Baker is the positioning is taking too long. That was one thing I saw. I know you wanted to get that to the ideal spot, but you were locked in for a couple of years, and it's not going to reposition until this round 6 that's coming up. So it was in poor positioning for a good part of the last couple of rounds. Price way too high, MTBF way too high. I think what's going on here is bid was I'd have to check it, but I think bid was a high-end product that floated into traditional because of the poor positioning in, if you can imagine a circle right here, floated in, and you didn't change the attributes. You need to change the attributes if your product moves into another market. So in this case, you need to lower the price, you need to lower your MTBF, because again, it doesn't care about MTBF. It's number 4 on the list. It really doesn't care. So you want to lower that as low as possible and save yourself a lot of money. That'll improve your profitability there. And again, lots of stockouts. So all the teams, including the computer teams, there's a lot of opportunity here to really gain market share if you can produce the products, especially for the product that I talked about here, Cake, getting a 59 score. I didn't mention Able, 27 score, very, very acceptable, but you both stocked out. So if you could produce more, you're gonna gain more profitability. Now let's go to low end. Again, lots of stockouts on low end. Let's see what is going on with bid, because it has a low score of 9. Part of the problem is your life is too. You got 5.35. Your positioning is pretty poor. Even though positioning is not, it's number 3 on the list, it's getting into that, what I call the ragged edge, which is that dotted area. So that's hurting your market share. So that's a tough decision. If you reposition it, cuts the age in half, but it'll at least get you back in the game a little bit. Lower your MTDF to 12,000, because again, they don't care about it. You can save some money there. So that'll help you on that particular product. High end, I didn't have a lot of individual critique of products except to say there was a lot of stock out. So again, same issue. Make sure you buy enough capacity, stay ahead of it. It takes 1 year to have capacity come online. So that's one of those things that you have to do before. It's like a chess game. You have to think about 3 or 4 moves before. So you need to do that before you need it, not when it's 198% and you have no ability to produce. Bold on performance, a couple of issues on, actually one on bold, one on coat. Bold position really matters. It's number 2 on the list, and you were out of position. You need to be here where my cursor is. You're back here. As far as coat is concerned, your number 1 criteria is MTBF. So they really care about that, which means you need to maximize that to 27,000. You maximize that. It costs a little bit more, but you're going to gain market share, and your customer service score is going to skyrocket, from 18, and it'll get back up into where your peers are. Then the last market, size. Again, size, these last 3 markets really care about positioning, either 1 and 2. So you got to be really careful about positioning. Buzz is lagging, needs to be back up here. And your price on Buzz can be much, much higher. You're at 25, whereas the range goes up to 32 for this round. You can be close to 32 and gain more profitability per unit. I haven't mentioned this page much, but because of all the stockouts, this is page 10 of the Courier is where you want to really focus on. And basically, you want to compare actual market share in units to potential market share in units. Anytime you see a actual much, much lower than potential, you know your stockout is really costing you. So as an example, I circled Agape. Agape achieved 12.9% market share. If it would have produced what it should have, enough units, it would have got 17.2. That's almost 5% market share in a market that is huge. Traditional is a large market when you consider the number of units. You can see here, just units demanded is 11,400,000. So 5% is a substantial amount of units. Did the math, maybe 500,000 units that you missed out on. But that's not the biggest one. The biggest one is Cedar. Cedar is in a, I believe, that's a low end. You got 13.5. You could have gotten 31.9. That's 16% of a market that is almost 16 million units. If you do the math on that, that's millions of units that you could have sold and achieved more profit on. So I know you were still profitable, but you could be a lot more profitable if you produce those units. And then this last one, it just illustrates Baldwin just being out of position. I think he got behind on earlier rounds and just trying to play catch up. Not easy to do. It's a challenge, but just get it as best as you can. Buddy, you might want to consider moving Buddy from here to here into traditional if you haven't already considered that in previous rounds. Buzz, try to catch up maybe here, fold. Again, when you reposition, make sure you stay within the year that we're in. So round 6 is 2026. Try to keep it in the year as far as revision date. And it will be fine. And HR didn't have much comment. TQM I did have a comment on. The maximum that you would want to spend is 15 million or 50. These are in millions, by the way. So Andrew spent 5.5 million, Baldwin 0, which they're trying to pay off the loan. I understand that. And Cedar at 7 million. You can easily max these at 1.5 million instead of 1 here, and start to maximize your reductions. Now, this is fairly max, but when you're talking reductions of administrative costs, Andrew has a long way to go. And again, finance those with long-term debt if you can do so. And that is the end of my debrief as far as round 5. Just a reminder, round 6 is going to be due. Let's go to the dashboard here. And I can actually log into a team, see what it actually looks like as far as you're concerned. But let's kind of read through this a little bit. Round 5 reports have been printed. You can now start round 6, and it's going to end on the 28th, which is tomorrow evening at 11 o'clock. So there is a Saturday closing. And then Tuesday next week is round 7, and then Thursday is round 8. We're done. And really, it's at that point working on your presentations. And then I'll open up Comp XM and kind of have an explanation on that for that week 7, or the final, what I call add-on week, however you want to put that. So I wanted to go now to what is due for this week. You have a whole sheet here. I'll just go to the sheet. This is obviously the one you want to focus on. And you can see you got to do chapter 10, do a chapter review on chapter 10, 3 points. Make sure you connect your topics to the simulation in a very explicit way. I see some of the chapter reviews are not doing so, and I marked down on those. So just make sure you somehow find a connection to the simulation. Assignment 5, you're going to be doing a competitive analysis. There's detailed instructions. Just make sure that you coordinate with your team so you're not all picking the same company. Now, the computer companies are fair game. In fact, the computer companies are a really good way to learn as far as what to do. So you're looking at a competitor and analyzing that competitor. And then reminder that question number 4, that answer, it needs to be posted to the, there's a discussion post, and I put a link on there, and you'll see that where you need to, for your participation rate, post that, and then have some discussion on that to get full participation rates. We usually do that in class. We're going to do it online. There is an extra assignment, an ethical decisions assignment, and again, the instructions are all there in a PDF form. And elevator moment, that's your last one. Of course, your round closing for 6. And that's pretty much it as far as what's due. And of course, they're all laid out here with links. And so I always like to go to the module, but you can also obviously go to your homepage and do it there. Here is the instructions for participating in week 5, and it has a link to where you need to post your answer to question 4 of assignment 5, and then comment on another post. So that is about it. Let me see if there's anything else. I think, obviously we're getting into the final approach as far as this class. Maybe refer back to my emails if there's some confusion. I try to put that all there and rewatch this video a couple of times as far as the debrief, and do your very best in a very challenging time. So I look forward to working with you on this week and finalizing it for the next couple of weeks after that.